Okay guys, welcome to another video. This video is going to be me revisiting the 3 video games that I played way back in the day. Now these were basically the very first home video games that I actually ever got to play. Now I'm not talking about the Pong machine, the one that Neil and I were trying to play a few weeks ago. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about proper, well, that was a proper video game, but basically, to try and set the scene, would it be 1978, my mate Nick, who was one of my mates at school, Nick was one of these guys, really nice guy. His dad worked in the oil rigs, and his mum, she used to basically go to the bingo all the time, and she used to basically put him out the house and give him like £10, and he would just kind of fend for himself. I used to feel sorry for the guy, his mum didn't really have a lot of time for him, but she used to give him like a big chunk of money, and Nick would basically be left to get his own dinner or whatever. But anyway, one day Nick came across to my house carrying a large polythene bag, and inside said bag was an Atari 2600. Now, I had always wanted an Atari 2600. Like most kids back then, I absolutely craved it. When it was getting advertised on TV, I just thought this would be the best thing ever. You need to try and put it into sort of some kind of perspective. Video games, Space Invaders was such a new thing. It was this wonderful new technology, something we'd never ever seen before, and it was mind-blowing, getting to see these arcade games. I mean, I used to see the Space Invaders at the local sports centre, and then, I don't know, maybe 6 months later, this machine, the Atari 2600, appeared in shops, and you could actually buy one of these and you could play Space Invaders and Pac-Man in your own living room. And to a 10-year-old, it was just like the most incredible thing ever. But unfortunately, there was absolutely no way my mum and dad were ever going to buy me one. They couldn't afford it. They told me they couldn't afford it, and so I just kind of left it. I didn't see any point in sort of pursuing it, but it was one of these things, when my granny would give me like £1 pocket money, I would think to myself, if I could only get another 99 of these, I could buy an Atari 2600. But I simply did not have the money. I never ever had the money, and it was just one of these things. I blanked it out of my head because I knew I would never ever get one. And anyway, yeah, this day, Nick turned up at the door with this Atari 2600. So we set it up. Now, this was back in the 70s when you only had one television in the house. Nowadays, every kid's got a TV in their room. You've maybe got, I mean, in this house alone, I've got, I don't know how many TVs. It's just ridiculous. But back in the 70s, there was only one TV. It was a family TV. It was a TV that you watched the Generation game on. It was the TV you watched the wrestling on a Saturday. You watched the TV as a family unit. So we ran, fortunately my mum was doing the housework, and I think my dad was at work. We ran upstairs into the living room, and we plugged in this Atari 2600. And the very first game, well, I can't remember if it was this one or the other one, but it was one of the two games that Nick had, in fact 3 games I should say, was, I can't actually see the screen. Can I see the screen? There we go. Right, that's better. First one was Pac-Man. Now, I had never ever seen Pac-Man in an arcade. Because I live in central Scotland, it was just something that I never ever got to see. Can I zoom in a wee bit? I don't know. I'm using a GoPro, so probably not. Yeah, what was I going to say? I'd never ever seen Pac-Man before. and Nick had this very game. Now, this particular game, it comes in from a lot of criticism, so there's a lot of light reflecting, unfortunately. It comes in for a lot of criticism. A lot of people see this as one of the worst games ever. Now, I happen to think that's not the case, which I'm hopefully going to demonstrate shortly. So, yeah, this was the game here, Pac-Man. How much was it there? £27.99 from the Saver Centre. Yeah, amazing. So, yeah, Pac-Man. And there's the cartridge itself. It's actually not in bad condition, to be fair. So that's Pac-Man. Second game which we played, which was... Oh, did it come built in? No, it didn't come built in, but it was bundled with the actual Atari. And it was... Hang on, this thing's going to sleep again. It's Combat. Now, I don't think... Was there any one-player games? I don't think there was. Tank, Pong, Biplane, Invisible Tank, Jet Fighter, 2 players, 27 video games. I don't think, yeah, 2 players. So in other words, there was no AI, there was no artificial intelligence in existence at that point. So you had to have 2 people. So I'll give this a go. I'll not be able to play it obviously really well because it does require 2 people. So that was the second game, Combat, and the last one that Nick had was Space Invaders, and I couldn't believe how excited I was to get this. I mean, it's, as I say, if you're watching this video and you're under a certain age, you're probably just thinking, what the hell is this guy talking about? How can he get excited about playing Space Invaders? But Space Invaders video games were so new. Before that, we'd never seen anything like it before. And, you know, to see a video game like Space Invaders getting played in arcades, it was just the most incredible thing. And to be able to, you know, play it at home was just absolutely mind-blowing. And like I said, I never, sadly, ever got to own one of these. But for that one weekend, Nick brought this across and we absolutely caned it. In fact, I managed to persuade Nick to leave it overnight. What I said to him was, look, do you want to come back to my house tomorrow? And he went, yep. I says, well, look, why don't you just leave the Atari till next week? Why don't you leave the Atari at my house? Save you bringing it back tomorrow morning. So Nick, quite happily, he says, yeah, that's fine. So we left it overnight and I just played it non-stop. So anyway, that's the 3 games. Let's now turn our attention to the actual TV and we'll try them and see if they're still as good. Back in a tick. Right, okay, I apologise now about the flashy lines. As you probably know, CRT TVs, the refresh rate differs from the refresh rate of the camera, something like that. So that's why you get these lines. The picture is actually pretty good on the TV, but obviously on the camera it looks like it's flashing all the time. So anyway, this is the first one we're going to look at is Combat. Now unfortunately it's going to be very restricted to being able to play this because obviously it's supposed to be 2 players and there's only me here tonight. Where is Dave when you need him? Now rather disappointingly, I was wanting to use the proper Atari joystick, but for some reason this one doesn't seem to work very well, so I'm having to use one of probably the worst controllers ever, and it's the Atari. This isn't actually an Atari 2600, this is an Atari 7800, which is 100% compatible with Atari cartridges obviously, because that's what I'm playing. So anyway, let's crack on. So this is the first game that you see. So I think it's a reset. We'll turn the sound up, not that there's a lot of sound to really write home about. So forwards, left and right, and fire. So basically the idea of the game is to kill the opponent, or not kill him, but destroy him, whatever you want to say. Boom! Actually, I forgot that when you actually shoot them, they kind of go off screen. I mean, the controls are fine, you know, it's left and right, up and down. It actually did feel like you were actually, you know, controlling a tank. Pulling back doesn't appear to do anything. Ah, wait a minute, right, you've got the, you can Well, hey, you can control the bullet, so you can basically be firing up here and go. Come on, I want to be able to kill him. Alright, okay. Right, anyway, that's the tank one, so how do we select? Right, there you go, you've got different, right, 4 or 5. You see at the top there are different mazes, so let's start that. But you know, it might be really rudimentary graphics, but it really did feel like you were controlling a tank. And you know, 30 odd years on, 40 years on I should say, bloody hell, it actually plays really well. Ah, it's bouncy bullets. I mean, the amount of fun that we had playing this game was just incredible. Come on, damn it. Boom. Superb. Like I said, I'm completely missing a huge big part of the game. The fact that it's only me playing. Great game. So that's tank. So let's see what else I've got. We've got tank. I mean, there's how many games? What does it say? Combat, 27 games apparently. What the hell's that? Is that, you even had some bizarre ones like this, but you couldn't actually see. The only time you appear is when you press the fire button. So I'm going to assume he's down here. I mean, I can't even see where I am. You know, to call this a sort of different version of the game is kind of pushing it a wee bit, but... Right, so we've got that. Now, where is... Black and white? Ah, here we go. We've got the biplane. So what other games did you have? Biplane, jet fighter. That's right, you've got jet fighter. Let's try this one. Why is that black and white? Alright, okay. Start. So, alright, okay, so you're basically pulling back towards you. Pulling back makes the plane kind of flip around. This was always a lot harder to play. Ah, right, okay, pressing right speeds it up, pressing left slows it down, and then you've got climb. Again, playing it yourself isn't as much fun as playing it against two people. So yeah, it's, you know what, it does look extremely limited, but when I think back to how much fun we actually had with this game, that's biplane, so we've got jets. What the hell? I can say that. So presumably the player 2 controlled, it looks like a giant scorpion. Player 2 controlled 3 planes. Yeah, you had some really bizarre sort of like versions of games. So this was, oh, you had the clouds. What is this? Reset. So kind of the same. I think they play slightly quicker. Man, that's rubbish. Let's start again. There we go. Aye, it's the same game as biplane, but you kind of move a wee bit quicker. I don't think we ever really enjoyed the planes quite so much. It was kind of, it took a bit more skill, and there was less variation, whereas we always really enjoyed the tank one. So anyway, that is Combat. How has it aged? It's not aged particularly well. I mean, it was a simple game back in 1978, but we still managed to get a lot of fun playing it. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for that game, I probably wouldn't be here sitting talking to you just now. So that is Combat. So let's put that one away and put on Pac-Man. There we go, right, start. Awesome. Now, like I says, this game gets more than its fair share of flack, in my opinion. People say it's one of the worst video games ever. Well, I'm sorry to say, if you think this is one of the worst video games ever, you've obviously never played a lot of video games. This is far from being the worst game ever. Yeah, you know what, from what I gather, this game, the guy wrote this in 2 weeks. And that is why, yeah, if you notice, when he's moving, Pac-Man's moving up, he doesn't actually face that way, he just kind of looks left and right. And yeah, the flickering on the ghosts does leave quite a bit to be desired, but you know what, as a 10-year-old, it never bothered me. It simply never bothered me. You just accepted it. You accepted it for what it was. And I remember getting blisters playing this. I says Nick left it overnight and I played this literally non-stop. But this, I actually think this is quite a good game. Yeah, it's not the best version of Pac-Man, but like I says, it is far from the worst. I would probably say this game that you're looking at was the game that led me to fall in love with video games, and at that point I knew that I wanted to get a computer. So the next time you go to slag this game off and you watch my channel, just maybe think about it, because if it wasn't for this game, there's a high chance that I probably wouldn't have got into video games, and I certainly wouldn't have, if that happened, I certainly wouldn't be making YouTube videos. But it actually plays really, really well. Like I says, if you can overlook the flashing ghosts, and it doesn't bother me at all, because that's how I remember it to be. So let's play one last maze. In fact, now what I'm going to do, let's just have a look. How many? There's supposedly 8 games in this Pac-Man. I don't think we ever. So this is game 2, game 3. Ah, right. So that's 2 players, is it? I don't know what the difference. Let's try game 2. I don't know what the difference is. Is it slightly harder, possibly? Ah, wait a minute. He's moving quite a bit quicker. So you've got sort of fast Pac-Man. Now let's try game 3. Then you've got I'm assuming that's maybe, I don't know, slightly harder or something. I'm not too sure actually. The one slight flaw with the flickering ghosts is it wasn't always obvious when the ghosts were actually flashing so you could eat them, because obviously they were flashing all the time, but they do change colour. So I suppose if you're playing this on a black and white television, it might have been slightly difficult to actually ascertain whether the ghosts were flashing or not and you could actually eat them. But I'm actually enjoying playing this, you know what, it is what it is. It brings back so many happy memories, even though I never owned Atari 2600. But right, anyway, listen, that is Pac-Man, so let's take a look at the final one, which is Space Invaders. Where is it? It's behind me, right. Space Invaders. Now, nobody else remembers the advert. There was an advert with a guy called, what was he called? Kenny Everett, who was a comedian, and he actually advertised this game. Now, although the actual graphics don't really resemble the arcade, as far as I'm concerned, this is Space Invaders. I mean, honestly, playing it even now, I just think to myself, how good would that have been actually owning this? I would have killed to have an Atari 2600 back in the day. But sadly, I was never going to get it. I'm just curious as to what the These are different. Yeah, you've got the little switches underneath. Now you start again. Don't know what that does, but that makes the base bigger or smaller. Obviously, the bigger it is, the easier it is to hit. So now this particular game has got 112 different versions. So what game is this? This is, you can see there, it's black and white, and the bullets are a lot quicker, and they kind of wave all over the place. Now we know when to get a colour one. Or have I turned the colour off, possibly? I don't know. Let's see. Let's start it again. I'm not quite sure what I've done here. I'm going to turn it on and off and see. There we go. I'll just start it again. But you know what, it plays pretty authentic to the original Space Invaders, and that's why, you know, I was insanely jealous of my mate having one of these. It's probably a wee bit easier than the arcade one, to be fair, although you have got, right, I noticed it's just gone black and white. I think it might just be a loose connection or something, I don't know. Let's just finish this particular level if we can, before we do a little summary. Let's try and take this bad boy out. Take that. Ah, bugger. I love how huge the big score is along the top. Take that. Right, anyway, listen, that's enough of that. That is Space Invaders. I'll just turn it. I'll switch it on and off. How do these games stand up now? Obviously, they're 40 years old. They were the very first video games that I ever played. They're not going to stand up particularly well when you think of what games I've got now. But you know what, even playing them 40 years on, they're still enormous fun. And you need to appreciate just what they were doing. This was revolutionary. You know, this was the first home home console. It was the first kind of home video game you could play apart from your sort of Pongs, which were quite frankly a lot of shite. And obviously the Atari 2600 led the way. You had stuff like the Intellivision, the Vectrex, which unfortunately weren't as successful, but the Atari 2600 really kick-started the whole video games thing. Then the computers came along, and as we know, look at what we've got now. If it wasn't for these systems, these particular games, you wouldn't have the games that you've got now. So the next time you fire up your PlayStation 4 and go to play a game and think how pish was the Atari 2600, just remember that that was the great granddad of your PS4, and if it wasn't for these early consoles, you wouldn't have this industry. And it's great to be able to play these games again. As I said, these were the games that got me into this hobby. And if it wasn't for Pac-Man, Space Invaders and Combat, chances are I would be doing something completely different. So anyway, on that bombshell guys, I'm going to get going. As always, thank you very much for watching.